Let me make a few things clear before I start. 1, this was posted to the Iceberg subreddit by the Reddit user Bathing Bear. 2, because of the extent of the iceberg, not all of these are going to be bangers. There are going to be some where it looks like I didn't do enough research, but I assure you, I looked in every nook and cranny that I could. I mean, of course, there's going to be some stuff that I missed, but I really tried my hardest to give as much detail as possible with each entry. 3, this is a part 1 in a 2-part series, so be on the lookout for part 2. And 4, if you like my voice or you like the beats in the background, I make music, so you can go check that out after you watch this. So yeah, let's just get into the video. We're kicking this video off with a really long one. The Hip Hop Police. The NYPD has a department for just spying on rappers. It started in 1996 when a man by the name of Derek Parker joins the NYPD cold case department. He was a huge fan of hip hop and knew a bunch of people in the industry, and he says that he caught a bunch of members of the NYPD giving 4-hour-long presentations on the East Coast versus West Coast beef that was happening at the time. He also says that Biggie was followed by the NYPD when he flew to LA before getting shot. He also says that there's a rap intel squad who gets huge amount of information on rappers. Don Florio, a lawyer who has represented Remy Ma and 6ix9ine, says that they're a shadowy specialized unit that conducts overly aggressive investigations that monitor every move of entertainers. To me, it's like stalking at the highest level. She says that the NYPD placed undercover cops in a Remy Ma concert just to spy on her and see what was going on. Derek Parker also says that the NYPD intimidates club owners into canceling events that rappers are showing up to. He claims that they tell the owners that rappers are really dangerous individuals, and if someone gets shot or murdered or something like that, it's going to be in the club owner's hands. So there's a lot more information, but this is just the bulk of it. So if you want to check that out, I'll leave an article down below. The WuTang FBI files. This could mean one of two things, or it can mean both. I'm not really sure. It was a very vague entry. It could either mean the FBI branding the WuTang Clan as a criminal enterprise, or more specifically that the FBI has a file on Russell Tyrone Jones, who everyone knows as Old Dirty Bastard, and the categories include anti-war, civil rights, gang violence, and much, much more. Rick Ross staged shooting. Rick Ross was a victim of a drive-by shooting on his 37th birthday in Miami, Florida, and crashed his Rolls-Royce in the process. 50 Cent then went on Instagram and said that the entire thing was fabricated because there was no bullet holes to be found anywhere inside the vehicle, and Rick Ross and his team were just using this for attention. But then Rick Ross's manager posted a statement saying that it really did happen, but it's just that the shooter had really poor aim, and yeah, nothing really happened after that. Eminem replaced. I'm pretty sure that everyone knows this entry, but if not, I'll just explain it briefly because there's not much to go over. People think that Eminem died of a drug overdose in 2006 and was replaced with a clone, and the evidence to support this is that, his music got worse, his face got worse, he got worse overall, but that obviously can't be because, he stopped doing drugs. B.O.B. Flat Earth. Now, I think this one is just as well known or more well known as the Eminem replaced with a clone conspiracy theory, but all that it is that B.O.B. thinks that the world is flat, or he tells everyone that he thinks the world is flat. But two pieces of information that not a lot of people know is that because of this, he got into a beef with Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist guy, and B.O.B. made a diss track towards Neil deGrasse Tyson, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson messaged his nephew, who is a rapper named Tyson, and then Tyson released a diss track towards B.O.B. Neither of the songs are really that good, but they're interesting. Another piece of information that I didn't know about was that Mike Seatown from Dead End Hip Hop had this to say about the whole B.O.B. Flat Earth thing.
He has some other things, I don't believe that. I read the whole fucking thread. B.O.B. was not defending it, he was reciting some shit that he'd seen somewhere else. Yeah. B.O.B., I don't give a fuck what anybody says. He has a mixtape that came out that didn't nobody give a fuck about. And he tried to throw some shit against the wall and see what stuck. He threw some other shit before that. Nobody said anything. So he's like, well shit, what else can I do? World is flat. And it's stuck. And then everybody...
I really couldn't find any evidence to support this, but if it is true, I would not be surprised at all. Because, B.O.B. has flown all over the world and should know that the world is round. Gangster rap prisons. This one is a really, really long entry, so just sit back, relax. If you don't find it interesting, just skip to the next one. But it's worth it, I promise. I'm pretty sure this is talking about a letter that someone posted to a hip-hop blog and called themselves the Decision Maker. In this letter stated that an anonymous record label funded privately owned prisons and wanted to glorify gangster rap to help fill prisons and inmates and get a return on their investments. The letter is super long, but the gist is that a group of music industry executives who didn't really care about rap were invited to a meeting in the early 90s. Some sketchy business dudes gave a short, to-the-point piece of paper to everyone that discussed the purpose of the meeting. Some people left, but those who stayed became the decision makers. The sketchy dude said, what I said earlier, that they invested millions of dollars in privately owned prisons, and the decision makers' choices on what goes on in the industry will help or hurt their investments. They signed an agreement to push gangster rap in the music industry to glorify breaking the law so people would get sent to prison and the record labels would get more money. There's a link to the entire letter below if you want to watch it, and it's not as crazy as it sounds. I know it sounds really ridiculous, but just listen. So 2 Pennsylvania judges, Michael Cohanon and Mark Civarella, were charged with accepting money to give juveniles harsher sentences. They sent not 10, not 100, they sent over 1,000 kids to for-profit prisons for crimes such as trespassing a vacant building or making fun of people on MySpace. It is thought that the labels were paying these judges, or, the labels were paying someone and then those someone were paying the judges, just a long rabbit hole. But yeah, this one is probably my favorite of the entire Iceberg because of how ludicrous but also possible it sounds. The LAPD shot Biggie. Now, that's all that I thought this was going to be, was that people think that the LAPD shot Biggie, but it gets a little more deeper than that. So a man by the name of Russell Poole, who was the detective for the Biggie case, claims that the LAPD had some involvement in Biggie's murder, and 2 cops went to trial, but nothing really came of that. They were found not guilty. But what makes this interesting is that he suddenly died of a heart attack out of nowhere. And the only reason I'm saying that this is interesting, because I'm kind of spoiling another entry, but the CIA has a gun that makes people have heart attacks. It's 100% true. And I don't know if there's a little, overlap between these 2 entries, but I talk more about that later. So yeah, when you start to think about it, the pieces start to fit together. And I forgot to say that his heart attack happens when he was talking to the LAPD about a cold case that he was working on. So yeah, it's a little fishy. 3-6 Mafia Satanism. Now, I really couldn't find a lot of information on this, so it's a pretty short entry. I'm pretty sure all this is talking about is that 3-6 Mafia has darker imagery in their music, but that seems a little tame to be on this Iceberg, so it might be related to another more sinister entry later on, so be on the lookout for that. Drake is an industry plant. I could not find any evidence to support this other than some obscure forum post, so yeah, that's it. Tupac is still alive. Everyone knows this one. People think that Tupac is still alive and he went to Cuba, but I'm sure that there's a lot of details that people don't know about. For example, Suge Knight's son, who is also called Suge Knight, claims that he is living in Malaysia and posted a photo of 50 Cent and Tupac together. 2. Suge Knight Sr. says that he doubts that Tupac is dead because the night of his shooting, him and Pac were laughing and having a good time. He says that he doesn't see how anybody could die feeling that good. 3. Suge Knight didn't get hit at all in the drive-by despite 14 shots being fired. Now this one isn't related to him still being alive, but Pac wasn't wearing his bulletproof vest that he normally wore. And there's so many more. I could just make an entire video on the weird facts surrounding Tupac's death, but I won't. So if you want that video, let me know, or you can just find everyone else talking about it. Vlad TV is the FBI. Now, there's this guy on YouTube named Vlad TV who interviews rappers and tries to get them to talk in depth about crimes they have committed. This isn't the only thing he interviews them about, but that's what we're talking about. And rapper Benny the Butcher says that Vlad TV is taking advantage of these rappers who don't know any better and just want to brag to talk about stuff that they really should not talk about. But Vlad argues that he's interviewing these people assuming that they are no longer in illegal activities and just want to talk about stuff that has happened in the past. However, with that being said, people think that the FBI used Vlad TV's interview with Casanova for Casanova's indictments. There's no proof of this anywhere, but it's still possible. There's an interesting video by Hip Hop Madness that talks about why everyone hates Vlad TV if you want to go check that out. The real 50 Cent. There's a guy named Kelvin Martin who lived in New York who went by the name 50 Cent. This is where Curtis Jackson, the famous 50 Cent, got his name. That is it. Battle Rap Illuminati. I honestly have no clue what this is talking about. The only, sliver of anything I could find is that there's this really weird video that looks like a shitpost that has a bunch of random clips on it. Maybe that's it. I have no idea. If someone knows, please let me know, because I could not find anything. MF Doom body doubles. Before Doom passed away, he would sometimes use Doom bots, which were people who looked and kind of sounded like him, to go perform for him because he didn't feel like it. Or I'm sure that there's some MF Doom lore reason behind it that I just don't know about. There is an interesting video by Justin Hunt who kind of goes in depth about this, so you should check that out. And any video I reference, there should be a link in the description. Jay-Z time travel. Now, this is similar to any celebrity time travel conspiracy theory, just a photo resurfaced that looked like Jay-Z that was taken in like the 30s or something. Suge Knight AIDS needle. This one is crazy. Eazy-E's son thinks that Suge Knight injected Eazy-E with AIDS, which is what killed him. If you think that this is a crazy idea, watch this interview that Suge Knight had with Jimmy Kimmel when they were joking about, Suge Knight being a dangerous person.
This is a new thing, right?
Yeah.
See, if somebody gonna do something about it, see, technology is so high, right?
Right.
So if you shoot somebody, you go to jail forever. So the kids, you don't want to go to jail forever, right? So they got this new thing out there. People sell them all the time. They got this stuff they get blood from somebody with AIDS. Yeah. And then they shoot you with it.
Oh, so well, that seems bad.
That's a slow death.
Yeah.
An easy thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, no. Okay. Way to lighten the mood.
Biggie predicted 9/11. Biggie's famous song Juicy had original lyrics that aren't played on the radio version. The lyrics go as follows. Remember rappin' Duke? Da-ha, da-ha. You never thought hip-hop would take it this far. Now I'm in the limelights cause I rhyme tights. Time to get paid to blow up like the World Trade. On first look, this does seem a little suspicious, but then you do a little more research and it all makes sense. February of 1993, a 1,200-pound bomb exploded at the World Trade Center. That's what Biggie's talking about, unless he knew 9/11 was going to happen. Kanye West MK Ultra. MK Ultra was a program that the CIA had where people were experimented on to see if they could be mind controlled. I think this relates to Kanye because in 2018 he had a long Twitter rant where he talked about mind control and MK Ultra, but that's all I could find. Busy Bone possession tape. Now I'm pretty sure this is talking about an interview where rapper Busy Bone was clearly under the influence of drugs and not really coherent. So yeah, here's a clip. If there's something else, I couldn't find it.
I haven't seen anybody bringing any money in H-Town.
Oh, well, you already know how it is. When we look at money, we don't look at that paper. Render unto Caesar's what Caesar, and render to God was God.
Yeah?
Yeah, most definitely. It's a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual movement. Most of my people at the mall, they know what's going on. Most of my people over there at the Scottish Inns, they know what's going on.
Rap MP3. So as I've been making this video, as you could probably tell, there's been a lot of entries that don't have a lot of information about them. I couldn't find anything because it was either too vague or there just wasn't any information about it. So I looked this one up again and did a little bit more research than I did initially, and I found a Reddit post that should shed some light on this entry. Someone commented, okay, so I just saw a video that talks about Rap MP3. It basically says that there are 3 theories about it. 1. Missing kid's phone was found and it only had one audio file, that being Rap MP3, which has secret codes, subliminal messages, and or induces suicide. 2. It may be 13-second audio, which all rappers use subliminally on their albums to manipulate listeners. 3. The theory says that there are 8 songs by 8 different bands. Each song narrates directly or indirectly the murders committed by each of the members in each band. The negative energy caused by these murders is found within the songs. And then other people commented that it's a rap song made by a gang that used real death, rape, and screaming sounds in the MP3. And someone says that they think that it relates to Memphis rap, which I talk about later on, kind of. I hope one of these is right. Curse of the Based God. Rapper Lil B tweeted out that a bunch of basketball players won't win any games until they apologize for calling him whack. I don't keep up with basketball, but apparently these players didn't play well after the curse was brought upon to them, and they started to play better after they apologized to Lil B. So yeah, that's it. 6ix9ine FBI informant. This one doesn't need a lot of explanation if you've been on the internet within the past few years, but if you weren't, rapper 6ix9ine was arrested for, felony drug charges, gun charges, whatever. He then snitched on his fellow gang members and then snitched on like Cardi B and Snoop Dogg and a bunch of other rappers. So people think that he's just an FBI informant and he was never really a rapper. No, but it doesn't really make sense if you've watched the 6ix9ine documentary, which I kind of recommend. It was kind of interesting. But yeah, that goes in depth about his come up as a rapper and stuff. And so he's been on the internet for a while, so it wouldn't really make sense for the FBI to... Wait. Okay, let me stop. Rockefeller body count. This either refers to the body count sample in Jay-Z's song 99 Problems, or the more sinister side, just a bunch of people on Rockefeller Records have killed a lot of people. I have no evidence of the latter, that's just the first thing I thought of when I read it. Or maybe they've had sex with a lot of people. Body count can mean a lot of things, apparently. Rothschild record label. Jay Electronica and wealthy Jewish banking family, the Rothschilds had a record label named Round Table Records. Apparently, Jay Electronica had an affair with the Rothschilds' heiress after being signed to the label, causing her to divorce her then husband. This sparked a lot of rumors about the Illuminati and hip-hop, because of course everything does. Your Old Droog, Nas, the industry. Your Old Droog is a rapper that sounds a lot like Nas. That is it. I don't know why this is even on here. Kodak Black cloned. People say Kodak Black is cloned because over the course of his career, his frame and appearance has changed greatly. This can't be because, he's been in and out of jail and on and off drugs. He has to be a clone. Mac Miller sacrifice. So when I was initially writing this video, I couldn't find anything about this. I know it has to do something with his death, but I couldn't find any dark, scary conspiracy theories about it. And trying to research it now, all that really comes up is the whole MGK playing Mac Miller in a biopic or whatever. So yeah, if there was something, I completely missed it and it's long gone now. ODB gang stalked. This entry suggests that Old Dirty Bastard was gang stalked by the rest of the WuTang Clan. I couldn't find anything except for a user under the name SheDoger. Was this about how ODB said how corrupt the system was and that the rest of the WuTang Clan had killed him to further their own careers, like sacrifice him to the devil and whatnot? I couldn't find any evidence on this. I think just a lot of these entries are just vague rumors, and I wouldn't say a lot have evidence to support them, but they're at least more than one person believes it. So I think this is just one of those things. Eminem ESPN glitch. Remember earlier when I said that I was going to talk more about Eminem being cloned? Well, this is it. In an interview with ESPN, where Eminem's promoting his song Berserk, he starts acting like really, really weird in the middle of it, like saying nothing for a really long time and just stuttering a lot and not coming off as a normal famous person, I guess. I personally think it's just because he's an introvert who never really does interviews and stuff, but watch this clip and tell me what you think.
Yeah, sorry. Live TV. Live TV freaks me out a little bit.
No.
Yes, I'm sorry. What was the question?
That was Mr. Rubin, one of the all-time greats producer, huh? Yep. How long does it take you to shoot a video like that? How many takes and how many hours?
Sometimes it's usually like a 2-day process. Sometimes it could go to 3.
Memphis rap seagulls. This refers to 8 tracks, those being Goin' Undercover by Lil Ramsey, The World of a Psycho by Maniac, Livin' in a Casket by H.O.H., The Return of Psycho by Psycho, the single by Children of the Corn, 1925 by Mr. Tinamane, and Wanted Dead or Alive by 10 Wanted Men. That supposedly had dark properties infused in them. There are a bunch of theories that have come from Reddit and 4chan about this. These include that there were coded messages signaling the location of Nephilim, which are beings mentioned in the Hebrew Bible that are large and strong, and the word loosely translates to giants, and it all ties to flat earthism and a bunch of stuff like that. Lil Peep subversion. I'm pretty sure this is talking about how people think that Lil Peep was murdered rather than died of an accidental drug overdose. Soon after his death, messages from a fan by the name of Maria Bond surfaced, and she said she got him high as fuck. But then she tried to get him to say something to her brother, and he would not wake up, and it's assumed that he died from this. Her ex-boyfriend came out and said that she also gave him a bunch of bad Xanax, and an investigation was done by the police on her, but nothing really came of that, and she died soon after all of this happened of an accidental drug overdose, if you couldn't have guessed. Is it possible that she gave him bad Xanax? Of course it's possible, but I don't think so, because there are multiple times where she was involved with bad Xanax, which could mean that she's just trying to kill a bunch of people, but I think that she really didn't know her Xanax and was messing with a crowd that she really shouldn't. The meeting. I really have no idea what this means. It could be referring to the meeting that was talked about before, with gangster rap prisons and whatnot. It's just a really broad phrase. I have no idea what it means. Proof died for Eminem. Now I'm just going to read this long comments that a Reddit user left, because anything with Eminem is just a needlessly long rabbit hole, and this person sums up everything really nicely. So shout out to Shadozer for leaving this and just letting me steal it. Eminem's mom mentioned that his great-grandfather was big into witchcraft and knew Crowley. There's a thread on X/X, I don't know what that is, last year that you can find on 4Plebs if you look hard enough. Proof made a song called Kurt Cobain. In the song he said, Proof also starred in Eminem's music video Like Toy Soldier, where Proof gets shot at a nightclub. Proof later dies from a gunshot outside of a nightclub in real life. Eminem spirals into a depression after Proof's death, most likely due to the regret of what he did and whom he did it to, his best friend. Eminem goes missing after overdosing, nearly dies, come back in 2009 with Relapse, in which he has a song called My Darling, where he has a back and forth conversation with a mysterious voice who is obviously the devil. In the song, Satan says that he now has Eminem's soul, controls Eminem, and he can never escape the reality he chose. And then the commenter goes on to say, people say that the deep voice is Slim Shady. It isn't, as Eminem used said voice in other songs when God or Satan is speaking. Eminem also mentioned selling his soul in a bunch of other songs. There's a lot more to this rabbit hole if you want to look into it. Just that comments about it obviously not being Slim Shady and being Satan is hilarious. Death row serial killings. Now, I have no idea what this means. I don't know if it's like serial killers on death row who also happen to be rappers, or if someone from Death Row Records was a serial killer. I really have no idea. Mumble rap brainwashing. Now, there's so much about this, just people thinking that mumble rap was put here by the government and whatnot to control the youth, and that kind of loops back to the very first entry of this iceberg with, gangster rap prisons and whatnot. But I found this really hilarious YouTube comments, and this person says that in the book 1984, George Orwell talks about, using less words to the person's subconscious to brainwash them and whatnot. And he says that mumble rap is doing that and made popular solely for the reason to dumb down society. And then he says it's not bad hip hop music, it's clearly, brainwashing the people. And he goes to say that it's just, he feels sorry for you if you listen to it. And I think that is pretty funny because I like mumble rap and I watch Rick and Morty. So it obviously doesn't make you dumb. Donda West murder. This explanation comes from a Reddit user by the name of XXX117. He writes that people believe that Kanye's mother's death was actually a blood sacrifice that Kanye made to elevate his fame and fortune. The evidence is that Kanye always mentions Satan in his music, and in a freestyle after her death, he said he sold his soul to the devil, and it's pretty weird with that context behind it.
I sold my soul to the devil. I know it's a crappy deal. Lisa came with a few toys like a Happy Meal.
All beefs are fake. This one is pretty obvious. It's just stating that people think that all rap beefs are put here by the rappers or record labels or whatever to boost careers, you know, like Jay-Z and Nas and stuff like that. And it's not too far-fetched. Rappers, you know, clearly understand beef gets eyes on them and whatnot. Just look at Hopsin and Eminem's early careers. Tupac lives with the Navajos. A Los Angeles filmmaker by the name Rick Boss says that Tupac never died and is living in New Mexico with the Navajo tribe. He says that Tupac planted a body double in Suge Knight's BMW after hearing that a hit was put on him. He escaped to New Mexico so the federal agents couldn't follow him because it's sacred land. He says that he got information from Tupac's family and friends, and he is planning to make a movie about it called Tupac, The Great Escape from UMC. Now, I haven't really seen any updates about the video, but here's a report of him talking about it.
That Tupac's legacy has always been linked to Vegas, but a local filmmaker says Tupac shouldn't be connected to Vegas because he died here, but because this is where he made his great escape.
Going straight to the point. After the shooting, what's next?
Most people would agree with official reports that after being shot, rap icon Tupac Shakur was taken to UMC where he died 6 days later. But local filmmaker Rick Boss has an alternate ending.
This movie is about Tupac actually escaping from the University Medical Center here in Vegas and relocating to New Mexico, getting protection from the Navajo tribe.
Boss says when the rapper
Illuminati killed Nipsey Hussle. Now, as far-fetched as this seems, because every time something famous happens, someone says that it's related to the Illuminati, it's not as crazy as you think because of the weird coincidences behind it. These people used his last tweet as evidence that something bigger was going on. The most popular theory is that the Illuminati killed Nipsey Hussle because he was working on a documentary with Dr. Sebi. Who is Dr. Sebi? Well, Dr. Sebi, whose real name was Alfredo Bowman, was an herbalist for plenty of celebrities, the biggest names being John Travolta and Michael Jackson. Sebi claimed that he developed a cure for everything, from AIDS to cancer to the common cold, and in 1993, Sebi gave evidence to a congressional hearing and pretty much became the laughingstock and was charged with unauthorized practice of medicine, but was not found guilty because he was not making any medical diagnoses, whatever. He was just saying that he found the cure and wasn't like, hey, you have AIDS, this will fix this. He's just like, hey, if you have AIDS, this will fix this. And in 2016, after being in police custody for money laundering, he died of pneumonia. This connects to Nipsey Hussle because he seems to have believed these claims by Dr. Sebi. On his song Blue Laces 2, he has a line, "They killed Dr. Sebi, he was teaching health." He was making a documentary about Sebi's trial before he passed, and Nick Cannon said he'd finish the documentary, posting a video of Sebi to Instagram with the caption, "They can't kill all of us," soon after Nipsey Hussle's murder. I'm not too in with the whole Nipsey Hussle thing, and I don't know too much about him, but like, that's so strange. It's such a weird entry. Malachi Z. York reincarnation. Dwight York, also known as Malachi Z. York, was an American musician and criminal who is also the founder of many different political and religious groups. The most popular one is the United Nation of New Wabane Moors. The beliefs of these groups are taken from a bunch of other religions, like UFO religions and stuff like that, and already formed groups. Another fun fact about York is he is a convicted child molester. I'm not sure where reincarnation has to come in with all of this. Maybe it's one of the beliefs of his many groups that he has formed. I have no idea. Erykah Badu's passion fruit. All that I could find is a quote from King Crooked where he says that Erykah Badu's passion fruit makes rappers find themselves. I'm pretty sure this is talking about her vagina or some other sexual orifice. I have no idea. This is really all that I could find about this. Lil Bow Wow limo tapes. So years ago, there were these rumors going around that Bow Wow was sexually assaulted by his limo driver. Luckily, all of these claims were completely false, but that didn't stop people from adding weird details to the rumor. Like, for example, people said that Bow Wow had to get stitches to fix what had happened. Other people said that he got robbed. There was even a rumor going around that Snoop Dogg put a hit out on the limo driver because he thought that Bow Wow would do anything for the situation because males and sexual assault and whatnot. But luckily, all of these are false. Lil Bow Wow didn't get sexually assaulted. Snoop Dogg didn't put a hit out on anybody. We're all good. The Nuwaubian Nation. This is just a religious group founded by Dwight York that believes in a bunch of UFO conspiracies and stuff like that. I'm not too sure why it has its own entry when I talked about it earlier, but yeah, it's here. Living in a Casket. Living in a Casket is an album by H.O.H. and one of the Memphis rap seagulls that I talked about earlier. I'm not sure why it has its own entry, just like the last one. I mean, I already talked about it. All that I could really find is that people think that it's a very underrated project from the South, in that cassettes can go anywhere from $30 to $90, depending on the condition. That's all I could really find. Kanye West is Ziggy Stardust. Now, as crazy as this sounds, there's a lot more details and coincidences than one would think when you first hear Kanye West is Ziggy Stardust. For example, the theory says that in 1972, David Bowie determined Kanye's success. One piece of evidence is that the cover of David Bowie's album, Ziggy Stardust, there's a sign above him that reads K West. Kanye West. Don't really have to spell that out. And the first track on the same album is called 5 Years. And 5 years after it was released, Kanye West was born. And then Bowie died, and Kanye was one of the first artists to commemorate him, tweeting that Bowie was one of his biggest inspirations just 1 hour after his death was made public. The final piece of evidence relates Bowie's final album, Black Star, to Kanye West. For one, Kanye West is a literal black star. And for two, the third track on the album is titled Lazarus, this being a reference to the biblical character of the same name that dies, and then Jesus brings back to life. And the third track on Kanye's Yeezus is called I Am a God. Outlaws smoked Tupac's ashes. Now this one isn't too crazy. The rap group Outlaws took Tupac's lyrics on Black Jesus literally and rolled his ashes into a blunt and smoked them. Pitbull predicted Malaysia flight crash. This is one of my favorites of the entire Iceberg just because of how ridiculous it is. Apparently on Pitbull's track Get It Started featuring Shakira, he predicted the Malaysia flight crash. But like a lot of the other entries on this Iceberg, there's a lot more details than just that. The lyrics go, "Now it's off to Malaysia. 2 passports, 3 cities, 2 countries, 1 day." There were 2 men on the flight that had stolen passports, and people think that Pitbull is referring to them. They also believe that the 3 cities refers to the capitals of Malaysia, China, and Vietnam, and the 2 countries are Malaysia and Vietnam, because that is where the crash took place. And later in the song, Pitbull says, "No Ali, no Frazier, but for now off to Malaysia." People think that this is a reference to Mr. Ali, the person who stole the passports. HNIC2.com. HNIC2 is an album from Mobb Deep's Prodigy, but I'm not really sure where the .com comes from. At first I thought this was going to be some not safe for work website or not safe for life or whatever, but looking it up, nothing appears. Yeah, I haven't heard the album, so I think maybe that there's something has to do with that and dark imagery and whatnot. Satanism. Jerry Heller Hitman. Gary Ballin, cousin of the late manager of NWA, Jerry Heller, said that Eazy-E hired a former Israeli soldier named Mike Klein to kill Suge Knight. He said in an interview with Murder Master Music Show, "The first time I ever saw Mike Klein, it was a picture of him holding up 2 severed heads. He was one of those crazy Israeli army guys, and when I met him, he had a real strong crew of guys who worked for him, and they became our bodyguards. Him and Eazy got to be real close because Eazy liked that Rambo mentality, and Klein was an expert on everything, whether it was karate, fighting, or anything. Once he threatened Suge, then everything was all over." The first thing I heard was he told Suge if he ever comes back, he would chop him up and put him in dumpsters all over the city. And the second thing I heard was he told Suge if he ever comes into the office uninvited again, he would leave in a box. Now this has a bunch of speculations, and this whole story of NWA and Suge Knight has a bunch of conspiracies and stuff surrounding it. I'm not sure what it has to do with Jerry Heller. I know it has to do with his cousin, but I don't know why it's not called like Eazy-E Hitman or whatever. Post Malone curse. I was caught off guard when I threw Post Malone curse into Google to figure out what this entry was about. I thought it was going to be like the based God curse, where, you know, he cursed a bunch of people that would do bad in the NBA, but it was totally different. In August of 2018, after the VMAs, Post was boarding a plane and the tires blew out right before taking off. Luckily, the pilot was able to land the plane safely, but a few days later, armed robbers enter a house that he used to live in, demanding to see him. And on September 7th of the same year, his Rolls-Royce was T-boned by a Kia in West Hollywood. You may think that he's the luckiest man alive because he survived all these, or the unluckiest man alive because he almost died 3 times within a month. But conspiracy theorists will try to convince you that it's something else. TMZ says that Post visited the Host of Ghost Adventurers Haunted Museum and was shown the Diebik box. This is a Yiddish word for malicious spirit, and it is believed to be the most haunted object in the world. The host told TMZ that most people have to view it within a protective casing because plastic protects it from the demons, I guess. But Post had special permission and got to see it without the casing, and then all of this stuff happened. But ever since the Rolls-Royce incident, nothing has happened to him, so I don't know if Post's Illuminati connections got in contact with the demon and was like, hey, can you stop this, please? Reverse industry plants. All that I could find is a post from some obscure Kanye West website where someone suggests that the government pushes whack and corny conspiracy theory artists. His examples are Hobson, Immortal Technique, and Ab-Soul to make talking about the government seem lame and have no other artists talk about it. Like, normal rappers won't talk about crazy conspiracies because of how it's perceived in rap and how it's like trying to be woke and stuff like that. This is really interesting, but like a lot of the other theories on here, there's like no evidence at all. It even has less evidence than people thinking that Kanye West is David Bowie, so. Labels equal trafficking fronts. Now, I know what this means. People think that record labels are just fronts for human trafficking, but I couldn't find any evidence to support this. I couldn't find any record label, that big or small, that has had accusations about this towards them. All that's there is just the name of this entry. Lo-fi beats mind control. There's this website called Brain FM that has an AI that specifically generates music to tune to the part of your brain that's associated with focus and relaxation. The composer of the website does a few things like picking the key and the length of song, but after all that is decided, the AI generates music over a certain length of time for the listener. These tracks are very similar to the 24/7 Beats to Study to live stream. I'm not sure if I got this entry correct because it's not exactly mind control, but it's the most interesting piece of information I could find. Lil Wayne molested. Every time I hear the story, it just ruins my day. If you don't know about it, in a 2009 documentary, Lil Wayne in a joking way said that Birdman sexually assaulted him. He has never pressed charges or anything like that, unfortunately. He also said that when he was a minor, he was told to perform sexual acts on another minor while being recorded by Birdman and his crew. The whole situation is really messed up. CIA drill vibrations. I wish I could lighten the mood with this entry, but I literally have no idea what it is. I don't know if it's like the CIA torturing people with drills. I can't figure it out. I don't even know why it would have to do with hip-hop. I don't know. Nicki Minaj does not exist. I can, however, lighten the mood with this one. If you slow down any Nicki Minaj song, it'll sound like a Jay-Z song. As crazy as it sounds, it is 100% true. So people think that Nicki Minaj is just Jay-Z's side project, I guess. I just wanted to thank everyone that made it this far in the video. I know it was a really long one and my voice can get kind of annoying, but if you made it this far, I really, really appreciate it. Like I said, part 2 will be out soon. However, In the span that it took me to finish like recording part 1 and start working on part 2, I got hit by a semi truck and had to get surgery, and I have stitches in my mouth. So talking for a long period of time starts to hurt. So if I don't see a lot of demand for the part 2, I'm sure it's going to take a while. But I mean, if it gets like 1 million views in a day, then I'm going to just fight through the pain, I guess. So yeah, thank you for watching. Go check out my music, go check out my beats, stuff like that. Yeah, and have a great day.